Hey friend, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today we're going to talk about something a little bit contentious in the space. I'm going to show you why you don't need a hi-hat mic when you're recording drums. We're going to be exploring recording live drums without a hi-hat mic today, and this is going to help you save inputs on your board if you're kind of strapped for inputs on your interface, but it's also going to help you get a more balanced and natural picture of your kit when you're recording live drums. Before we dive in here though, if you're ready to go a little bit deeper into the drum mixing process, then I have just the thing for you here today. It is my 3-step framework for mixing drums workshop. This workshop's just going to walk you through the simple 3-step process that I go through on almost every single one of my mixes to help you dial in a repeatable workflow for cranking out professional sounding drum mixes right from your home studio. It is a 100% free to watch, on-demand video training, and you can get instant access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Now let's jump in here and take a look at these kits. So here's a quick look at the actual kit setup in the drum room here. You can kind of get a glimpse of the mics we have on the kit. So we've got 4 toms, we've got a kick in and a kick out. Our kick in is inside the front head here, and then our kick out's underneath this baffling right here. We've got a pair of overheads, we've got a mono room mic, and then there is a snare top, and a snare bottom mic that you can see here. No hi-hat mic is going on, and we're going to kind of talk about the reasons that I'm not using a hi-hat mic as we look at a couple different mix examples. But the main thing for me is we have all of these other mics here that are actually picking up cymbal and hi-hat information. Mainly our snare drum mic here, which is very, very close in proximity to our hi-hat. And when we end up boosting top end on our snare drum, we're going to catch more of that hi-hat bleed. I'm not gating the snare drum. I like to leave it open. I like to leave it natural. I'm not sample replacing it. So I'm going to get a lot of natural hi-hat sound from the snare mic as well as our overhead mics, because that's our kit picture. So our overhead mics are going to give us a balanced sound of the top of the kit, which is mainly our cymbals and our hi-hats. So we're going to have a balanced picture of the hi-hat versus like the ride and the crash cymbals in our overhead mics. And then we're also going to get more from our room mic. So we're going to get even more hi-hat from our room mic. Our tom mics are going to pick up some hi-hat, but we're going to cut that out, and we'll look at a couple different scenarios in the mixes that we pull up here. And we'll also get a little bit of hi-hat from the kick drum, but we try to minimize that as much as possible here using the baffling, because I don't want to hear a lot of the cymbal bleed coming through on the kick drum. So that's our kit set up here. No hi-hat mic going on, mainly getting it from our snare drum mic as well as our overhead mics here on the kit. Back inside the DAW here, we're going to look at 2 different sessions. The first one we're looking at here is a raw drum kit recording. So this is not mixed. This is just the raw kit off the floor in the room. Let me play you what this sounds like, and we're going to break down a couple different things to show you why you don't need that extra mic, why you don't need that hi-hat mic to get a balanced picture of your kit. So here's just the raw drum kit in the room. So you can actually hear just the raw recording of the kit kind of balanced in the room. The hi-hat and the cymbals are one of the loudest things you hear coming off the kit. And let's break down where we're getting all this information from. So the place we're getting it from least is the kick drum. So let's solo up our kick drum. Here's just our kick in and kick out mic on the kit. So that's our kick drum mic, or our kick drum mics. It's mainly our kick drum, and I don't go through gating on the kick or the snare. I like to leave the spot mics, like the kick and the snare, open and as natural as possible. You can still hear our hi-hat coming through on the kick drum mic, even though we did have that baffling going on. And this is the raw recording, you got to remember. So when it does come time to mix and we end up boosting top end to get that click and that top end attack, we're going to have more hi-hat coming through. Let's keep moving here though. Let's listen to our snare drum mic. So this is our snare top and bottom. Same kind of situation here. We hear our snare drum, but the thing we hear most besides our snare drum is the hi-hat and the cymbals. And if we put that in context with our kick drum now, here's our kick and our snare. So now we've got that buildup in the background slowly creeping up in level as we add more stuff in. So let's listen to, here's just our toms in this section. We got a ton of cymbal noise and hi-hat coming from our toms, so let's throw all of our spot mics in together now. Kick, snare, and our 4 toms. Now at this point, it's like we have a hi-hat mic going and we don't even have our overheads or our room mics in on the kit yet. So let's throw those in as well. Let's throw our overheads in and let's throw our 2 room mics in. Now here's our full picture of the kit, raw recorded off the floor. So this is a look at the recording side of things. A raw kit, this is just the recordings of the drum kit. This is why I'm not putting up a hi-hat mic on the kit. We're getting some from the kick drum, we're getting some from the snare drum, we're getting a ton from our 4 tom mics. So it's the build up across our 4 tom mics. Then again, we're getting most of our hi-hat from the overheads and from the room mic. We put all that together. It's like a whole bunch of hi-hat mics coming up in the mix. We have that build-up slowly creeping up in volume as we add more pieces of our kit in. And if we were sample replacing, if I sample replace the kick and the snare and I cut out the bleed on the toms, then maybe I would want that hi-hat mic in. But my goal when I'm bringing up a kit is to keep it as natural as possible. I want to preserve as much of the performance and as much of the character of the artist in the room as possible, and that means not sample replacing their kick performance and not sample replacing their snare performance. So I'm going to get that bleed from the kick and snare, so to me that compensates for not having a snare drum in the recording process. The thing we're going to look at next is a finished mix. Let me flip over here to another session, and we can look at it in terms of a mixing scenario. So here's a finished mix, and in this situation here, the toms have been trimmed out. So usually when I finish the editing process for a track, I will trim out the bleed on the toms because I don't like some uneven bleed coming through on the different tom levels, and I don't want to hear that panning and messing with my overhead panning as well. Let's do the same process here. Let's start with our kick drum. So here's just our kick drum for this track. So you can hear that Baffling is doing a good job at keeping that hi-hat level contained. So we're mainly hearing our kick drum, but the thing that's most loudest behind the kick drum is still our hi-hat because we're boosting all that top end. When it does come to mix time here, we've got a ton of top end boosted here on our kick drum, and that's inevitably going to bring up our cymbal noise and bring up our hi-hat. So we're still getting some hi-hat information here in the mix. Let's take a listen to our snare drum here. Same kind of situation. Again, the thing that's most loudest behind our snare drum is our hi-hat, and we're boosting that top end, we're boosting some 9K, bringing out more of that hi-hat than maybe we would want in our snare drum sound, but we're preserving the performance of the artist here inside the track by not sample replacing our kick and snare, and we're getting a natural sound from the kit. So here's our kick drum and our snare drum together now. You can hear it feels like we have a hi-hat mic going on with just the spot mics from our kick and snare in, because they're both picking up bleed. We've boosted that top end, which exaggerates that bleed we get from our hi-hat, and then we combine them together, that bleed builds up, and we have more of that hi-hat coming through, and we don't even have our overheads in yet. Now, like I said, I've trimmed out the bleed on the toms, so those aren't adding any hi-hat bleed now. Let's throw our overheads in, and let's see what our picture of our kit looks like now. You can hear we throw our overheads in and we have plenty of cymbals and plenty of hi-hat to work with here on the kit. And we haven't even thrown in our room mics yet. So let's throw in both the room mics here and let's take a listen to our finished drum mix on this track. We have plenty of hi-hat to work with across this drum kit here, on our kick drum, on our snare drum, on our overheads, on our room mics here. If we did have a hi-hat track here, if we had a hi-hat mic to pull up, it would be very, very low in this mix because we don't need more hi-hat in this mix right now. And if I wanted more cymbals and more hi-hat, I could simply pull up the overheads here. And if I had that extra track, it would be tucked pretty low. It would be down here at like -15, -16. And that's not really contributing anything to an entire mix at that point. So let's listen one more time here to our entire drum mix. You can hear as we build it out, we'll start at our kick drum, you can hear the hi-hat build up, come, and grow as we add in these different elements of our kit here. So if you're doing your due diligence to get a good capture of your kit, to get a good kick drum sound, a good snare drum sound, you aren't gating everything, you aren't sample replacing, you don't need that hi-hat mic. You will have a balanced and natural picture of your kit when you pull up your spot mics. I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that gave you something to think about as you pursue recording drums further down the line here, maybe not using a hi-hat mic. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're ready to take your drum mixes to the next level and really start to dial in your workflow, then I have just the thing for you, and it is completely free. It is my 3-step framework for Mixing Drums Workshop, and it's going to walk you through dialing in a repeatable workflow for cranking out professional sounding drum mixes right from your home studio. It is 100% free to watch, and you can get instant access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching here today, and I will see you in the next video.